So I finally made it to the ocean a couple days ago after, I think it's been at least 10 years. I may have been on it briefly a few times over the years, but haven't swam in it and haven't spent time, hanging out on the beach in at least 10 plus years. So did it the other day, and it was super windy due to a hurricane offshore, so there were really big waves. None of the people I was hanging with had any interest in going in the water, between that and the fact it wasn't as warm out that day. But of course, then it doesn't make the water feel as cold. So I, who love to swim and always bring my goggles, I like to even swim laps in the ocean, as I say. Although I was still kind of hesitant. It was getting later in the afternoon and would have been very easy just to skip it. And I never enjoy that first plunge into the water, especially since it didn't feel all that warm, sticking my toe in. But having been used to embracing discomfort due to cold shower finishes, the key to life, I did get myself in there. And it was the tide was coming in, but it was still where you could walk quite a ways out. But you could only get so far before the waves would just, blow right at you. So I kind of had to dive underneath them until I could get out a decent amount and ride them back in. So I did that for, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Got pretty tired out. So I eventually went back on shore and walked. It had actually dragged me quite a ways down. So I walked back towards my friends. And then I decided I want to go out a little more. So I went back down a little bit in front of the lifeguard station. And I went back in and I was doing the same thing. And I had to go out pretty far to catch the waves before they weren't already cresting. So I went out and did that and rode one in and then rode another. And it got to the point where I was really getting exhausted quickly. I'm in pretty good shape. I feel like I could swim forever. But I forgot barely even have swam in waves like that, which how quickly it can tire you out. Even just riding them in was taking so much out of me. I was getting really winded, and a rip current had come out of essentially nowhere. I hadn't felt it earlier. That was pulling me back out. And I started getting really nervous. Now, I've always remembered, I was even joking on shore that I've always wanted to use my ability to swim parallel to the shore, as they tell you need to do when a rip current happens. So that did enter my brain, as well as what entered my brain was not to panic. Because at this point, I was really starting to think I wasn't far from needing to cry for help, which more than, just life-saving aspect is just the embarrassing factor was killing me. But what really kicked in was my prefrontal cortex. As I talk so much about, recovery is about strengthening that to fight off your midbrain, your emotional amygdala, which is the trouble breaker. And that has got to be what happens when people drown. I mean, they obviously drown legitimately because they just can't have the strength anymore. But what I think even super quickly depletes your strength, in fact, I know this, is when you panic, which comes from the amygdala. And so luckily, I, thought consciously even, fight that thing off. Just say no, stand up to it. Just like I say to stand up to that voice that compels you to drink, tell it to F off. And it said, no, we're not doing this. You can handle this. And sure enough, I did. And, rode another couple more waves in and to where I could stand up. And I was totally fine, although super exhausted and almost felt like I was going to pass out as I was walking on shore. But I credit it to my strengthened prefrontal cortex, which goes for anybody, not just those of us with addiction issues that need to do the work to do this. Everybody, as I love to say, needs to do the work to strengthen their cortex. That's a key part of life. It builds resilience, which I'm going to talk about in my next video. So thankful for all that. And, as a matter of fact, I probably could have stood up at any point during that. But it didn't even occur to me when I was really in the throes of it to actually try to just stand up. And now I understand even a little more how people can drown in shallow water. So crazy. I'm so thankful. And does remind me when I was up at Lake Placid, New York, up in the mountains, Adirondacks recently, I thought I was running a lot longer than I had planned. Hadn't brought any water, foolishly. At one point, thought I saw a bear that just turned out to be a huge tree trunk turned over, like a tree that was turned over, and the trunk looked like a bear for a moment. And I almost started panicking more about the dehydration, thinking I might have gotten lost. And again, I consciously let my cortex take over and say, no, you got this. Don't panic. No matter what happens, you know where basically the water direction is. So can't stress enough. Key to life. And it's a key to overcoming irrational thinking. So many people try to apply rational thinking to irrational problems or disorders like drinking, don't understand why people do it, especially when they're going to drive, etc. But yeah, suddenly my mind turned very irrational. And it took my rational cortex to overcome the irrational midbrain amygdala. So we'll end that by saying that is why it is so important to do the work. Ideally, important to give up drinking, but if you can't do that, if you don't want to do that, you still need to do the work, which I talk about repeatedly. Therapy, coaching, just talking in general, cold shower finishes, so many other things. All right, that'll do it. As always, please remember, stronger, sober, especially in strong currents, and to like, share, subscribe. Thanks.